Hilti first came to the United States in the late 1950s, and they brought with them their first low velocity tool. From what I can gather, people really didn't pay much attention to Hilti back then. They were just a small company with a low velocity tool, no high velocity tools, and at that time high velocity tools were the norm. There were very few low velocity tools out on the market. But their tool is pretty interesting. It's the DX-100. To fire the tool, you twist this end, remove the end assembly. In this stem, there's a counter bore in the end there. And in that counter bore, you would stick the powder load, which is a 25 caliber powder load, and you would stick it crimped in first. Being a low velocity tool, the tool does have a piston. On the end of the piston is a half moon shape. The half moon shape would contact the powder load, and that would be what would set it off. The fasteners for the DX-100 were like this. They have about a 6mm head diameter and a 12mm, I believe, washer. There's a magnet that holds it in there. So you would just stack it all together. You would have the pin down here at the bottom, the piston on top, the powder load, and then the hammer here. So when you struck it, it'd crush the load and set the tool off. The tool is a real simple design. There's not a lot of moving parts to it. I'm going to start by popping off the rubber spall guard. And I'll remove the end of the tool. A couple of bolts hold on the nose piece. There we go. Here's the piston with an overdrive washer. There's a spacer plate. Inside it is some type of crush ring on there, or another spacer that does pop out. And there's the body. That's pretty much all there is to this tool. I have 3 different pistons here made for the DX-100. One of them is made for drive pins, and the other 2 are made for different size threaded studs. And Hilti is not the only company to do this. The first piston here is made for a straight pin, this pin here, and it has a very shallow counter bore in the end of it, and it fits right over the head of the fastener, and it improves the guidance of the fasteners, keeps it nice and steady. The second piston I have here is made for a threaded stud with a thread section about this length, and it fits right over the end of that threaded stud. If I were to attempt to use a piston like this on a different threaded stud with a longer thread length, it would damage the threads, possibly damage the piston, taking a large chip out of it, and would definitely screw with the guidance. The last piston I have here is made for a threaded stud with a much shorter thread length, and again, if I were to use it with a longer one, it would cause issues. What I'm going to do here, since I have this piston and these threaded studs here, these are made for steel. They have a very short shank. Don't know if you can see it, but they're knurled. And if you're not aware of it, the objective in shooting into steel is to get the point all the way through the steel. This is because steel's natural tendency is to return to its original shape, and it pushes against the fastener. So if you don't have the point all the way through the steel, it's going to push against the taper of the point and reduce the holding power. So our objective is going to be to get the point all the way through the steel. Let's do it. The DX-100 is a pretty neat little tool. It's not something you'd want to use a lot if you were a framer or a drywaller, something that you would use it all day long. But for other trades such as electrical and plumbing, very adequate, inexpensive, few moving parts. Since it is so enclosed, it does get dirty quick, so it does need to be cleaned a lot. They're plentiful, easy to pick up, though usually their asking price is way above what it needs to be. But all in all, it's a pretty neat little tool and a nice addition to any collection.